Thank you for tuning in to The Real Tea with T3. I am Tesia Harris, the team leader of Texas Trio Team, and we are so excited for our guest today. We hope that you are doing well. So we're going to serve and spill all about real estate and so much more. So we've got great guests. We've got Brooke, Rickett, and Ashley from WFG. So introduce yourself. Tell us what keeps you busy these days.
My name is Brooke Rickett. I have been in this industry since the very early age of 16. Started as a summer job, and we always joke that it's a lifelong career thing. Once you're in, and if you're not, then you run for the hills. But we have worked together, Ashley and I, for the last, 7 years? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So title is in the genetic makeup. It's just what we do. So.
And what about you, Ashley? You didn't start doing what you're doing, so talk about how you got started and what you're doing today.
Yes. So I am Ashley Brocato. I am the sales executive for our Magnolia branch of WFG Title. And I started 11 years ago coming out of the service industry. I had no idea what title was, what escrow. And I was approached by an assistant manager at a title company, and she offered me an escrow assistant position. And I went home and I said, I got a job. It's an assistant. There was some other word before it. I'm not really sure what that was. I had no idea. And so I started, just making copies, making packages, and learning the documents, and worked my way in reverse of learning all of the positions. And now I'm the sales executive for our branch, and been on the escrow side. That was really fun, learning the process of clearing title, but moving in the streets, that's where I like to be, meeting people, making the connections, and building relationships.
So was that something that you learned over, that's something you always had a passion for, building relationships and getting out into the community and basically beating the streets? Or was it like you were in title and you're like, no, I really think that I could shift into doing this now that I know it?
I have always had a very outgoing personality. Being around people has always filled my cup. And honestly, I went to a Houston Community College, and general marketing degree was what I was going to go for. And then I got out of the service industry and, just on the escrow side. So I'm like, okay, well, this is something new, and I'll just learn that. And watching the sales executives in the branches and going, oh, that looks like a lot of fun.
That's more your niche of what you wanted to do.
Yes. Yeah. And so when that position opened up for me, it was kind of a joke. Brooke was like, hey, you're going to be our new business development.
I remember when you guys made that switch, you were standing on the shoulders of somebody pretty strong in the industry. Yes. And then, I had worked with you so many times, when you're being a escrow processor and doing all that. And I was like, what? But you've really flourished at what you've, stepped into.
Absolutely.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And that was part shines. Of it. Yeah. She was like, you have such a great relationship with the agents anyway. And I mean, anytime somebody came to pick up their check, I'm like, oh, here, let me run it up there, and visiting and building that relationship. So that was like, oh, now I have to go back to my desk and type out things.
And I think positionally on the management side of it, you really have to look at who your people are and what their strong suits are, and determine whether they're truly happy in the role that they are participating in internally.
Mm-hmm,
and,
absolutely.
She's a different person from then to now. So it's been really, really fun to watch that process.
And that says a lot about your retention, because, you took somebody and what they were good at and molded them into that into that role for your company. And, you've been there together for so many years. So It's just up from here, right?
That's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So what about you? You've been doing this a really long time.
I have.
I remember the first time I ever met you.
Oh, gosh.
I do.
It was always scary.
It was like a decade ago. Mm-hmm. And, I was new and shiny in the business. And I walked in and you were just smiling behind your desk. And we've been just kicked it off like we've known each other for years and years.
Yes.
And so what is that like, being an escrow and, building your career and then stepping into the management role? How does that feel?
I think that if you're passionate about what you're doing, you're continuously looking for the next thing. You want to continue the education. You want to continue on the journey. It's a self-drive. It's a self-push. And so I think that when you step into that role, it's a big transition, because escrow and I hate to say it, but it's a cutthroat industry in many areas, and it's competitive. So you're constantly chasing the next deal, chasing that next relationship, and retaining it. And so I think that part of it is the easy part, right? It's relationships. It's growing and learning what your clients need and being able to accommodate it. And I always have this saying when I speak with my agents for the first time: we have to do about 5 deals together for us to truly understand how to communicate appropriately. And that's hard to do. We're as good as our last closing. That's the rule of thumb. So I think that if you can have that rapport straight out of the gate and continue to grow on it and give each other that grace for those 5 transactions to get through it, you have the ability to build a long-standing relationship. And so I think that, that part came naturally. And management was something that I really wasn't sure of. Some days I'm still not sure of, right? But I think that it was a challenge, and it was one that I wanted. It hasn't always been graceful. Some days are much better than others. But the end goal is betterment for myself, betterment for my team. And when you start to look at your team as your responsibility, these are my people. This is how we function every single day. I do not do anything alone. I cannot do my job by myself, period, under any circumstance. And without them, we don't survive. And when it became more important for their livelihood and their well-being, that's when that shift happened for me, where it was like, okay, I understand the purpose now, and this is what I'm geared towards. I have a job to do still in escrow, but I have a bigger job with making sure that my team is where they need to be and giving them the opportunity, because I'm not going to do this forever.
Right. And just to create something that in generations from now that, is still standing.
Correct.
Based on the, foundation that you set.
Sure. Absolutely.
So once you have a team that you're with for a long period of time, that you're seeing every single day in their office spaces, Ashley's running in and out, but overall you're seeing these people every day. How do you keep the team alive and spirited, in such a stressful industry?
I think that my rule of thumb, and I always tell my office and whoever walks in the door that we have a really simple rule, and it's to be respectful of one another and to recognize where people are at. You might not understand it, but you can still respect it. It's to treat others the way that you want to be treated. It is to know that this is a team. This is not an I. This is us. It's a we. And it requires every one of us, good days, bad days, somewhere in between, to do what we do. And so I think that if you genuinely care, that comes out of you and it spills onto the people around you, and it makes it that much easier for them to give in return. It's a respect. It is a genuine care, concern, and respect.
Yeah, it's almost like a family after a while.
Oh, absolutely.
And you have each other's six, whatever it is.
100%.
And so after the recent storms that we had, you guys went through it. We were working transactions together, and we're separated by miles, but not by spirit.
Correct.
And so whenever you guys went through that, was that kind of a refresher of teamwork makes the dream work, or was it just hold on, stay fat, and we could get through this.
Yeah,
and
stay the course.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've experienced quite a bit together. So we went through the pandemic as a team. Mm-hmm. And I think that, you're forged in fire in this industry, whether you like it or not. It's just the way that it works. And that's your best growth, right? And so we have 2 choices, and it's we're going to sink or we're going to swim. And sometimes what's above water doesn't match what's below water, but we make it work. And I think that we've kind of figured out a way to make the best of a worst case scenario. And that's what we did. I mean, our office was out of power for 5 days. We were spread out. And it's about communication and staying, grounded in that space. Although we're not present together, we're present in every other aspect. So
yeah, I would say it was very reminiscent of COVID days.
It really was.
It was.
Mm-hmm. Working because during COVID, our office was remote, some of us were in. And so communicating by phone, Brooke called me Tuesday, and my husband woke up Tuesday morning and he was like, nope, we still don't have power. No, we're not doing this again. So we went to my in-laws. They had a generator. So Brooke calls me. I'm in a bathing suit and a cover up because it is hot. And she's like, River Oaks has power. You need to get over there immediately and get these papers
No
printed.
excuses.
Yeah, I don't care
"This
what
is
you're
for
wearing."
closing." And I said, okay, well, I just wanted to make sure I'm not signing anybody. And so my husband and I jumped in the car, left the kids with grandma and grandpa, and we navigated our way from the Spring Branch area to River Oaks, and looking at all of the damage, all of the downed trees. So we were able to get there. We picked up our paper package and drove all the way back out to Magnolia to get to Brooke. And then she drove to Montgomery the next day to get our closing done. And that's how we worked. It was, this office has power. Okay, we can go here. I'm going to be here. We're going here. And we made it work. I will say that is one thing about our team. We do whatever it takes to get the deal done. We're going to close. Everybody's leaving with a smile on their face. And we go that extra mile to make sure that your dreams come true.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in title, there are so many things that different personalities, things like that you're dealing with on a daily basis. So when you're dealing with these struggles, and then, whether in the office or you're just, working on behalf of your family, like just trying to be successful, like what are some go-to things that like make you have peace of mind at the end of the day to just get your head off of things?
That's a good question. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're all in this together, one way or the other. We all experience it different. But I think that, when you recognize where people are, it makes it a lot easier, and it's that gratitude mindset of this could be a lot worse. And I think that is really a space where there's peace of mind in what we do. It's not always, sunshine and rainbows. Some days are rough. Some closings are rough. Some office days are rough. It's what you're going to make of it at the end of the day. You have a choice. And so, if you choose the positivity, even on the rough patches, it shines on the other side of that. So, yeah.
I think, finding the positive in everything. I mean, July was rough. I mean, I feel like our area was hit harder, especially with power outages, than some other areas.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which was so strange to me. Like, and I want to dive into that more, but it was so weird to me that, we had Harvey happen. We had the pandemic happen. We had all those things happen, but it seemed like the stability of like, what do you think it was just primarily the wind damage that caused that?
I think that's the biggest part. And the emotions that exude from people under pressure like that, it's easy to laugh about it and smile about it now. If you would have asked me on day 4 of no power how smiley and wonderful I felt, it wasn't good. And could I say that gratitude and positivity was first and foremost? No, absolutely not. I was hot. I was sweaty.
And it's not just you. It's your family. It's your kids.
Yeah. And so.
Their pets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So I think that, we've seen the wind damage, we've seen the water damage, we've seen all of it. And I think this last round, we weren't recouped from the previous storm and the damages that were done from that. And it was just, one on top of the other. And catch up is hard after that.
Yeah. And also reading a lot of reports of people losing power before the storm even hit.
That was me. I was one of those people.
And I think that may have been a preemptive measure, right? Just so I mean, I don't know I am not an electrician, so I have no idea what that would help with, but that was something that was also concerning, reading about that afterwards, going, okay, why did you lose power? If the storm hadn't even hit, how did you lose power?
Yeah.
Great questions for some executives.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of conversations that I'm sure are swirling in those industries right now, because those things that happen, it's just really fascinating how we can all dig deep. And then like once it happens, it's just like another, and another, I'm trying to think of like another form of perseverance. Like, it's just like, we can just keep moving forward, and then it's just like, what's next?
Right.
What-
Right.
We got through that, and like, it's fine.
Well, and I think pandemic really altered that mindset. You know, when I think about what we went through as far as people in general, but then you take the business side of that. I mean, and I look back, we were doing closings, you know, in 107-degree heat next to a running vehicle, you know, trying our best to keep everyone healthy and safe, and the creativity that it required in order to do what we do was really beyond what you could fathom. And I think that going into this, it's like, okay, it's a bump in the road. It's a discomfort, but it's not a deterrent.
Right.
And really, I mean, I don't think we're done. That's the thing.
Well, and that's one of the things I want to dive deep into with you ladies is, so we've had, you know, mental, spiritual, physical health with the pandemic, and then we've had like environmental health, you know, that we've went through, and, you know, perseverance with that. But now we're getting ready to have a really big rule change that's happening with the
Economic health.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a real thing.
Yeah. And so, like you were saying, we have to become innovative and to, you know, get creative, you know, without breaking any rules of something that's new into the industry.
Right.
What are y'all's thoughts on like how you see it impacting your business and the real estate business with these going into effect?
Well, I think realistically, and I'll dive into this, sorry, but realistically, if we look at, you know, Texas is a very protected bubble, which we are so grateful for, because there are so many personal owned and operated businesses that it's constantly thriving, even under pressure, even under stresses. If you look at other states, we are very different, and it's a joke, right? You know, everything's bigger in Texas, but that really is true. And so I think that we are feeling those pressures economically. It's inevitable, because what happened with pandemic is we had this crazy boost in sales. You know, everything was a bidding war. Everything was overpriced. Interest
like
rates,
cutthroat.
it was crazy. And interest rates being, you know, so low that people can't undo what they've already done. And so now we're having to work around that. And so we've created this space where it's gotten really uncomfortable for a lot of people. And it's hard to watch that from, you know, the other side of the desk, so to speak. I think that we're seeing people who are stuck. They can't get out. They cannot afford any longer to change from, you know, that 2.5 interest to a 7 or an 8, or if you're fortunate to buy down to a 6.5.
Well, even with like the election year, you know, statistically, like the past 9 elections, I believe, like that, home prices, like, or as far as inventory, it's been, you know, people kind of hold off, but then right after, like, it shoots up as far as buyers out there that are going to do something. But with interest rates being where they are, you know, I think that prices could stay, I think they're going to stay consistent and or rise.
Well, and I think that's what happened is, you know, I think we caught up with the rest of the states around us, truthfully.
Agreed.
I think that we were sheltered in our space, and we weren't with the rest of the times as far as the value of land. And so with the pandemic, what occurred is we reset our values, right? And so now everything has a new space, and this is where it categorizes, and it is not going to go down from there. Not to say that it couldn't, but I don't anticipate it.
Right. And what about, for the rule changes that go into effect for real estate on August 17th, do you think that's going to be an impact? Because in 2020, we saw such a significant rise. People are at home taking online real estate courses, and everybody, and to be frank, their baby mama was a real estate agent.
It's true.
And so do you think that that's going to have an impact, you know, of how many people are actually practicing and doing well in the industry?
Absolutely.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's going to weed a lot of people out. The people that are really serious about their business are going to be the people that you see left in the business. It's not just hopping in your car and showing homes. There's a lot of work. And now with the rule changes, and everybody is trying to navigate this new, even at Title, we're seeing changes on CDAs that are coming in and going, hold on, wait a minute.
Right.
Why is it laid out this way? And then going, okay, wait a minute. I think this has to do with this change, and we're going to see this. And so then it has questions arise for us. Are we going to see a CDA on this side, and what kind of rule, and how do we follow this, and how do we stay neutral and also disperse? And so it's going to be challenging to navigate, but we are resilient and we persevere, and we'll find a creative way to navigate it and figure it out and keep rolling and keep business going.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was easy, right? When the pandemic occurred, it was unprecedented. We saw everyone selling real estate, and you didn't
Everybody
have to work
was
for
successful.
It. Yeah.
It was easy.
Yes, it was very easy.
The business fell into your lap. I mean, you didn't have to work for it. Now people are having to work for it.
Yeah.
Well, and there's something that will set you apart in the business, and it is, how you show up, how you present, what your education level is, how you're representing your clients. There's so much more to it, and not everyone can hack it. And so I think that what it does is it opens the door for those who aren't in it to win it, to exit, and those who are here to stay, who are doing good, solid business, and it's reputable and it sells itself, they'll continue to thrive. It might not be on the level that the pandemic was by any means, but I think that you'll continue to do well if that's where your journey is. But I think that it will narrow down who is actually in real estate. I'll be curious to see what it does for all of us across the board.
Yeah.
I think that your downtimes are what build you, right? It's a make or break, and you're either going to come out of it on the other side and be better for it and have that confidence that you can ride the wave. We've seen it. I've seen it. I've been in the industry long enough to know what the highs and what the lows feel like. This is different. This one is definitely different.
And I think it's a time whenever people can step into their value proposition of what they bring to the table that separates them from everybody else.
Absolutely.
So you guys are in title, and so there's title companies everywhere. And so what are you guys doing as far as your brand recognition that sets you apart?
That's a really good question. So, we all sell the same thing, right? We're selling title insurance. So what sets us apart? I think that your heart and your passion for what you do is going to be the first thing. It's the biggest thing. And when people know that you care about what you're doing and that you're willing to take those steps and to work with them and to hang with them through the hard stuff, and I can speak on this because you and I have been down this road, right? You have a rough transaction, and there are people who won't hang in there. There are people who don't want to go and take that extra step or the initiative to go figure out how to find the yes. That's our job. It's what sets us apart. So I think that educating yourself, having the grit to go through it, having the compassion and empathy to understand that every transaction is someone's personal journey. We have 2 seconds to walk in a room and assess a client. Our agents, they get a little bit more time. If we don't get the backstory, we have to gauge that as soon as we walk through the doors and greet these clients. So how we choose to show up for them in the capacity of good communication, ensuring accuracy, taking accountability and ownership through the entire process, and showing up in a way that they need us to, whether it's a happy transaction, a first-time home buyer, or, it's someone who is a widower and this has been their home for 30 years. I think that it's all about how you show up for your clients, and that's internal and external that sets you apart.
And to piggyback off of that, customer service. I mean, that is definitely our driving point that sets us apart from other people. like she said, there's a title company on every corner. There's an agent in every car, and there's a lender at every light, as what I've been told.
Yeah, but at the same token, there's enough business for all of us.
Absolutely. Yes, there is plenty of business out there.
Everybody needs a house.
Yes, everybody needs a house. And, at some point, we're all going to be involved in a transaction together. So let's play nice and get along and help each other and cheer each other on, because it's a tough market out there. And we're all in it together. And at some point, like I said, we're all going to be on a transaction. And it's just nice when we can all get along and play nice in the sandbox.
Right.
Well, and I think that you are, for me personally, and that's what I can speak on, right? I know a lot of people in this industry, and a lot of really great escrow officers, a lot of really great managers. And I respect what they do in the business. And yes, it could be considered competition, but for me, I think it's important to know who your competitors are. But this is not a competition with any other company or any other closer. This is about the business that I do. And when I take out that competitive side of it and I focus on what is important, and that's the job that has to be done and the service that we provide, everything else goes to the wayside. This is the job. And it's either you're running full force at it and you're taking it, bull by the horns. Everything else is not a competition.
Right. And since there's so many people in both of our industries that, we work with, talk to every single day, it's a great opportunity to learn from each other. Like some people might post something on social media, you're like, ooh, I like that, but switch it and be creative and to be imaginative of things that you can implement that, you see them being successful and root them on, and then, maybe do something a little different and pivot it and create it and just bounce off each other.
Well, and I think that's for any industry, right? You look at those things and you go, oh, which sparks something different, right? Because that's theirs and we don't want to take from someone else.
Right.
But what we do want to do is we want to give in our own way. And I think that allows us to, and it's not just the title industry. It's not just your side either. I think that that's for everyone. You see something and you're inspired, right? And that's our role. Ashley inspires people every single day, and then what happens from that? Those relationships grow because of that inspiration and that creativity. We are constantly having to get creative, and that is Ashley's every day.
Yeah.
So I think that how you choose to be creative for your people is going to be what sets you apart.
Yeah. And whenever you went to college, you went in for marketing. And so you obviously had a little bit of a creative edge to do something important with that. You don't have to say the year or anything, but I know it wasn't yesterday. So are you seeing like significant changes as far as like marketing and branding that are not what they were when you went to college to learn all about it?
Yes, that was over a decade ago. Wow.
She went when she was 10.
Yeah. I was a young Sheldon. With technology, all of the advances in that, all of the things that are readily available at our fingertips have completely changed the way people market, as far as Instagram Reels and Canva and getting creative and making your own pieces and really just creating your brand kit. That has... Sorry.
That's just been a game changer as far as having that kind of technology at our fingertips.
It's huge.
Yeah. We didn't have that.
No.
Well, and AI. I mean, think about that. I mean, I'm pretty wordy, but wow. When you just take something that you think is great and then you run it through AI and you go, oh, well, apparently I could have said that better.
I need to go back to school.
Yeah.
I love how quick it is. Like, what are your thoughts on AI? How do you feel about it?
I have mixed emotions about AI. I think that we all have something to bring to the table and everyone communicates differently. So being your genuine self and communicating in the way that you communicate is what makes you special. Do I think that it's beneficial in certain circumstances? Absolutely. Do I think that it could potentially land you in a hot spot? 100%. Because what happens when you show up and you don't communicate like that?
Exactly. I know.
That is the huge thing. You've got these eloquent posts and words and letters that you've used AI
The
to
linguistics
create. Yes.
of how beautiful it is. And you have the education of a
And
sixth
then,
grader.
Yeah. And then you meet them, you're like, hey, y'all, how you doing? Did you see that house? Oh, wow, that does not sound like your email.
This is not as,
And I do try.
articulation isn't matching here.
No,
Yeah.
and I do like to, say things and I ask it to use it in a personal tone or
You have to prompt it,
Yes.
to work
so
with
that
it
it
better.
sounds how I would say it.
Right.
And I will usually, if I use chat, I'm asking for multiple variations, and then I usually hot podge it and go, oh, I like that. That sounds more like me, and then of course I'm going to change it a little bit so that it does sound like something I would say. Because
Right.
wow, I'm like, whoa, that sounds like my husband wrote it.
Yeah. And it's really interesting that whenever people are using it and then they're posting online, it's like you can almost tell that it's not them anymore. It just kind of takes over what you're seeing. So much is changing as far as like the legalities and everything, as far as being a realtor and title, you're seeing the shifts. Then we've got all this technological advances that are coming in. It's really funny to look back and think, when we probably all started getting in this industry, or it's just like we were using like Google Maps and old things like that, and how quickly things have shifted. So do you think, did you have any other innovations besides AI that you think that are going to be taking over, or anything like that as far as technology that you're implementing today that you might see more changes with?
I mean, I think that the systems that are in place are continuously improving. And not to give away, obviously, I've been in this business. I started a very long time ago, and as I worked my way through school, I look back at the progression, and this is going to sound crazy, but I can remember sitting down at the typewriter, literally, and sending out commitments that way. And then I think about now we have integrated systems online where our clients have the capability to see things in real time. So the forced accountability there is wild. So I think that part of it is really incredible. And I think we're just scratching the surface.
I agree. Yeah.
I think that there's a lot more to come, and the creativity will continue as long as it stays in a healthy path. I think that is going to be the thing that really determines the direction that we're going to go, and I think that it's as amazing as it is, it's equally terrifying.
Right. And one of the things that, I've talked to other people about and I strongly believe in is it gives us, at least as mothers and as business owners, so much more time back into that.
Yes.
Yeah, that is one thing that I'm enjoying about it is I could have sat at my computer for an hour trying to think. I had I don't have too many hostile clients, but or even an agent that thinks they know everything. When I'm dealing with those relationships, I think that would be the biggest struggle, for me, is dealing with an agent that, is trying to dominate a deal.
Right.
And so those conversations where I'm coming back as a professional, not as, I have a little bit of fire in me. So, not to be that way, is helpful. But, taking that hour that would have taken to do that and then going to my kids' practice instead of focusing on that.
Right. It is. It's incredibly helpful. I think that, the whole goal is to work smarter, not harder.
Right.
And I think societally, we are now much more geared towards that. And it took some ingenuity along the way for someone to go, hey, there's a better way to do this. There's a smarter way. We can get more time, because obviously time is your most valuable asset, right?
Right.
It's the one thing that you're not guaranteed. And so when you give it, you want it to really be meaningful. And I think that we are there. We're there in this industry at this point. And I think that they will fine tune it. They will tweak it. And it will be interesting to see how long, people like us are going to be needed, because at some point it's going to override us.
There's been times, and I'm not going to name drop any brokerages or anything like that, but there are times when it's basically like they were trying to get rid of the person, the realtor,
Right.
of helping opening doors and, handling, and then they're just doing it for like a flat fee. But I don't see them as much as I was like when they first started coming out,
Right.
and there's a reason for that.
Right. Well, because we need that personal touch, right?
Right.
We need the interaction. We need the emotional aspect because we are humans. I mean, we are not robots. We are not computers. Although they make our life easier, there is no replacement for that personal touch and for the relationship side of it.
And as much as AI is very helpful to, nothing beats getting back to the basics. I
Right.
mean, you really want to get it out there and be successful in your business, get back to the basics. I mean, the cold calling and the door knocking. And I know there lots of people will turn their nose up at, oh gosh, no, I'm not doing that. But it really is. I can send 1 million emails a day. I might get a few returns. I mean, you know, how many emails do you get a day?
A lot.
Yes. So, unless you have a super catchy subject line that's going, makes you want to
Right.
click and open that
Right.
email. You can send a text too, the same thing. You don't know if they could open it. They look at it. Okay. They've seen it, but they don't reply. You pick up a phone and call. Hey, that could be a potential caller for a buyer. They're picking up the phone. I mean, and if they don't catch you on the first ring, if you don't leave a message, they'll call you back because they want to know if you're a potential buyer.
Right.
Or, someone wanting to sell their home. So, just getting back to basics, I say, is a good refresher to you if you're struggling in your business, because nothing works.
Yeah, and I
better.
think with the industry changes we're talking about, and like you said, just getting back to the basics, it's always about time management and then follow up,
Yes.
know.
You have a 48-hour window.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what we like to say. You have 48 hours. After that, you're just a
Shoot, I'm
passing
like
thought.
15 minutes.
I know. I'm like, if I don't send this email right now, because we're busy, life happens, it's on to the next thing. And if you stop and you do it, you don't know what that thank you means, right? You don't know or what that handshake or what that hug before you leave means. You have no idea. So I think that that's what it is, right? It's the relationship side of it. And that is, you can't replace it. And that's integrity in business.
Right.
When they know that you care about what you're doing. I mean, again, I hate to keep, repeating it, but it is passion about what you do.
So how did you know whenever you got into this business, how was it that you were like, this is what I'm doing? This is who I am. This is what I'm going to do to retirement until I'm an old lady on the porch sipping tea. What is it?
I think for me, I grew up, my dad was a custom home builder. So he and my mom ran a company. So I grew up in it, and I can remember it was comical, and I can say it now, the business is closed, but at 9, thank you for calling Glenlar Homes. I was coached on how to answer that phone. You've got to smile when you answer the phone, and you need to make sure you have the details and, the names, and it carried on. And so that was the beginning of this love and passion for what I do.
Your parents made you work for what you had.
100%.
Yeah.
And they made, me understand how business works and how professionalism will change the whole entire course for you. And it stood out. And it opened doors for opportunities for growth. And I had some really amazing mentors along the way. Outside of my family home, outside of that family business, I was really fortunate for those relationships who took the time to educate me. And
in business or title or both?
Well, in title specifically, I can genuinely say that I've had to go back, and not had to, it's been a pleasure to go back and say, hey, I wanted to thank you for, what you did for me as a 16 and 17-year-old for a summer internship, because it completely altered the course of everything for me. And it gave me a skill set that I was passionate about, and I had no idea that I was going to love. And I think that, that moment, watching the buzz in the office and watching how fast paced and how important it was, what it meant for someone. That's the biggest expense of your lifetime.
Yeah.
And the most emotional when you think about that, you know, first time, brand new married couple, first time home. There's something personal attached to it. And you can't just be just anyone going into the industry. You have to have knowledge. You have to have the desire to continue to grow and to be able to retain what is coming down the pipeline and then apply it every single day. And it is ever changing. I mean, I've watched rules change drastically from then to now. So I don't know. I would say I was 16 years old. It was the first time that I landed in a, corporate setting in the title industry that I went, oh yeah, this is it. I love this. And it didn't matter if it was being the receptionist, sending out commitments on a typewriter, or whether it was funding or closing. You definitely find your passion in it. And it's the industry that if you get in and it's not for you, you will exit promptly and you will never look backwards. But if you get in it and you don't run, you are in it for life because it's part of who you are.
Yeah.
Because it's a helping, and it's being able to communicate and collaborate and do all of these really cool things with people for the greater good, for something that's really, really cool. I don't know. That's the best way I know how to explain that.
I started at a builder title company. So I worked on the behind the scenes. I wasn't very much involved with communication with the customer and the buyer. It wasn't until I switched over to the company where we met, and it was a resale title company. And at that point, I got to see the happiness, the first time home buyers and the excitement that comes, and then, the downside to selling a home as well. And that's where it got passionate for me, like just being a part of that moment.
Someone else's excitement.
Yes. Somebody else's journey.
Yeah. And helping to make their dream come true and creating this special moment for them and this milestone. And then really moving into sales. I was at a space on my escrow journey where I was questioning, do I want to do this? Is this what I want to do? I've been doing it for a while now. I wasn't finding as much joy in it. And then when this sales position opened up, I thought, oh my gosh, this lit a fire in me that I'm like, I'm right where I need to be. I was passionate, excited about work. I came in and, I have a job to do, and be that part of that is being the office cheerleader, which I feel very.
And we are so grateful.
Yeah.
We are so very grateful.
Being in this role has awakened a passion that I hadn't felt in a while.
Right. And so I think all of us, when we started in an industry, like you don't just walk in and start making the big bucks and reflecting back on it. You have to go through the dirt, like grunt work, and so it sounds like that's what you did. It's like you did the grunt work just to learn it, to learn the industry. And then now you're really shining at your customer service and, client communication and all of those things that you're doing.
Oh, I remember my first position in the title company and going, what is a MUD? What is this? What's
mud?
A deed?
Yeah.
What is a deed of trust? Or what's a note? You don't need to know what that is. You just make copies, record, get the packages back to the lender. And I'm going,
I think that's what sets people apart, though, as far as management style, right?
Yeah.
So we're all going to end in this industry at some point. Who's going to pick up? Who's going to take over? If no one stops to teach your people coming in,
absolutely.
Then what?
That's so funny is I remember when we moved out into this area that I was really looking for my place. Like I was successful out, in the Magnolia area and knew everybody. Yeah. And I was like, I could rip off and duplicate that business I created there and do it again anywhere.
Right.
But what I found was that I had a deep passion for helping other people and not just people in business, but more of like realtors.
Yes.
Because I know what it's like to go through the grunt work And you have to have that person to lean on, like that mentor, that source. And it was just like, I felt really compelled to give back and to do that. So that's why I started the team, because I was like, number one, I cannot manage all this business by myself.
Right.
You have to have, like you said, you cannot do it by yourself.
Right.
There's so much that goes into it that we don't think about every day. And so I love that you take passion in helping your coworkers and the reason why, because I so empathize with that.
Well, and especially if you have somebody that's asking questions, nurture that.
It's the best
nurture
thing ever.
that, because
yeah.
you can mold that into something great. Like you said, you're not going to be there forever.
Right.
You
Yeah.
pass the torch,
And everybody's
let someone else
different.
carry it.
Everybody
Yeah,
is different.
absolutely.
And if you look at them, take them at face value, look at their skill set, look at their strengths, look at their weaknesses. We have an opportunity to put them in a position where they are going to excel. They're going to exceed expectation. It's going to be a journey. It's going to be a growth. It's going to have its downfalls. And then there's going to hit this little plateau where you go, okay, is this right? And then all of a sudden you fall into your space, and all of a sudden you start to take off and fly. And I mean, I've watched Ashley, it's been a journey. She's watched me, and I think that when you can recognize someone's strengths and then push them into a space, they may not even see it, but maybe you see something in them that they can go and do great things with. It takes one person to believe in you and give you an opportunity. Off you go.
Right. And that's what I ran into is like whenever I was like, I really thinking about doing this and like creating something, like it had been in the works for a really long time. Like I was just, it was just jotting things down and like making notes and making Excel sheets and drawing maps, and like just how this was going to run itself. But I had a mentor at one point in my life that literally looked at me in the face and was like, you're going to put so much energy into this. And she was retiring. So she'd been doing this a really long time. She was like, you're going to put all your energy into doing this and you're just going to get hurt in the end because everybody will leave you. And I was like, well,
I'll take that risk.
Yeah. I was like, wow, what a perspective. And it was just like, people are going to hurt you. People are going to, but some people are going to soar and they're going to look back in 20 years and be like, man, she helped me get there.
Well, they're going to go back and go, hey, I want to thank you for being my mentor.
Yeah.
And I know that because I've done it.
Right.
I'm grateful. I can go back. I can name people in this industry that are still in it. And we always laugh, there are salty people who get kind of bitter and, it might be time
to hang it up.
Yep. To put your boots up and, it's time. But that's huge, right? You impacted somebody in a way that they may never have had that opportunity before. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, take the risk.
Yeah. And you never know who you're pouring into. It may not go anywhere, but you may be pouring into the next top agent at your brokerage, and seeing their success and knowing that you helped
somehow
in that, you helped impact that success. So that's rewarding enough for me to do that.
Well, because it's all a learning lesson, right? Not everything ends beautifully. Sometimes it's a disaster and you go, oh man, we should have done that one different, but you learn something and you apply it each time you go forward. So, yeah.
I tell my team all the time, like I try to tell them in a sense, it's just like, you're going to fall, but try not to fall on your face, fall looking up because you got to get up.
Yeah. I heard a line in a song. It says, I never failed. I only learned. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I really like that. I'm going to steal that. Because, we don't fail. We learn. And then you move and you grow from that. So I have to remind my son, he's a perfectionist at heart. I mean, he tries something, he wants it done the first time, and I'm going, babe, successful people, they fail the most.
That is so true. I think, and one of my favorite quotes that I lean into is just like, successful people have the most problems. And so they may not be, detrimental, but, we're dealing with juggling a lot of balls all the time.
Absolutely. You're a multitasker, right? Because that's what it is. It's and from the outside perspective, people think, oh, it looks so pretty. It's the perfect little package. They have no idea. It's that whole thing about, what I look like above water looks calm and cool and collected. And you have no idea that I am paddling for dear life underneath it, right? I'm this little duck that is like, oh gosh, I'm going to drown, and I think we all go through that.
Yeah.
And you have a respect for it after you have, made your way through that space. And sometimes you revert back to that space.
Right.
Because it's consistently changing.
Right.
And it's how you adapt to those hardships or those changes that make it different for people.
So how do you, whenever there are the difficult times, the feel of the breakdown, but there's going to be a breakthrough, how are you like stepping back into your greatness? Like what are some things that you do for?
I feel like I should hold Ashley's hand for this conversation. We have to hold each other accountable, right? Because we're imperfect people. We have life happening and sometimes it's the personal level, sometimes it's the business level. It's the human aspect of it. And then you go to work and you have to set these portions of your life aside and you have to go there and you have to do a job. And sometimes you're overwhelmed or you're off track or you kicked your feet up too soon and it's not time yet. And so then you have to find a creative solution. How do you, number one, approach this problem, right? And maybe it's not a problem. Maybe how do we approach our setback? Because we know we're not geared in the right direction. And sometimes that takes 5 or 6 times. I mean, Ashley and I have conversations, hard conversations, that aren't always graceful and wonderful. Sometimes there's tears, sometimes there's raised voices, sometimes there's hurt feelings. It's about what are you aiming towards? Are we?
I think your people have to know that going in.
Mm-hmm.
So when those moments of anger, frustration, sadness happen,
right.
It's not personal. It's just
No.
Right. But if you've always had respect and always given respect, then everyone knows that at the core, that the conversation that's hard and difficult to have is for the greater good.
Right.
Everybody knows what your intention is. It's not questionable any longer. So I think that having those conversations and holding each other accountable and making you step out of that box, because I don't want to be uncomfortable. That's no fun.
I don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Right.
No.
Right. And she doesn't want to be uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, sometimes I need a swift kick in the rear, and sometimes so does she. So
I think remembering too that it's not personal.
Yeah.
And not taking it personal.
Right.
That it is constructive feedback and pushing through it. Okay, I didn't like that. That didn't feel good. Well, growth usually doesn't feel good.
Right.
And so just going, okay, I hear you. Okay, well, okay, let's do it different. Let's find a different way to do this. I think there was a time early on in our relationship where we had a hard conversation, and I came from a very toxic environment where people just said what they wanted to say in front of everybody. It was not even behind closed doors. This was a closed door conversation, but at that time I was a little sensitive and I did take it personal. But now I understand that is how she communicates, and it's not a personal. It's because she sees something in me, and I will say that she's always been that way. She'll see things, and not only myself, but other people in our team that they don't even see in themselves. And she does have a way of pushing you into the space where you are meant to be. Aww. And you just don't know that. So
you're a good boss.
Yeah, no, for sure. So,
I think that's probably the biggest reward is when you know that there is a positive attached to it. I wake up every day and question, am I doing the right thing? Am I taking care of people the right way? Because it is important, because I do care. And so knowing that there is a positive and they feel good about it and they know, no, I'm not a perfect communicator. I'm not a perfect person. I fall short in all types of areas, but she knows where the heart is behind it.
Well, and I love that be who you are behind closed doors. Like who you are when you're stepping into this role, talking to clients is the same person you are when you go home and put your feet up at night.
Yeah.
It's important.
That was a funny lesson I took a little bit to get behind, my idea of professionalism, right? We have to maintain this appearance. We have to maintain this type of communication and how we are speaking and how we're presenting and so forth. And I had someone once tell me, they just want to be your friend. And I thought, well, this is business. It felt too personal, right? But that's actually what I had to lean into because that is what people want. And Ashley tells me that all the time. They want to be friends. I'm like, I'm trying. I'm doing my best. It's a hard, vulnerable space.
Yeah.
It's easy to go to work and do the job. But when you're emotionally invested in it, that's when it gets tricky. That's when it gets complicated.
Right.
Because not everybody sees it the same way. So, yeah. I think it all goes down to the personal touch of things.
Absolutely.
It's huge. And we're in the South, so Southern hospitality. It's just in our nature. I think that's one thing that I love the most about my role, though, and I've said it before in this conversation, people and relationships, it fills my cup when I know I've helped somebody and not just with their business or I've had many conversations where, an agent will call and they're asking for a net sheet or a deed restriction. And it's just a simple, well, how are you doing? How are things going? And then it just opens a floodgate of things that they're going through and dealing with. And I'm an ear, and I don't even know that I even said anything that was, an aha moment. And before we hang up, oh my gosh, thank you so much. You really just helped me see a different perspective. And wow, that was so encouraging. And I'm going, what the heck did I say? I'm like, can I say that to myself? I need to say that to myself in the mirror. But then it's like I have that therapy session and with them, and they get something out that wasn't even business. They didn't even know that they were going to get when they picked up the phone to call me. And so that's very rewarding for me too. And I love to help people and helping on a more personal level and not just business. So
100%.
It's a healthy mix.
Yeah.
And when I had a circumstance happen in my family, like I would deal with people every single day, but your company was the only one that sent me a plant.
Aww.
And it was like, wow, it just made me feel so good on the inside. So yes, you're right. Customer service does matter and you do care.
Sure. 100%.
A lot of people, they're pushing to be successful. They're pushing, to do all the things, but they just forget the simple stuff
because I don't want you to be here for 5 minutes and leave, right? I want you to be established and long-term and to know that you have value. And it's not just the business you bring through the door.
Absolutely.
You have value in being who you are. And we care. Like that's, I think that is, when again, it's genuine. It's not, we know what's happening. We know that you're running to cheer. We know about the hard stuff. We know, about the exciting new journeys. We know all of the things that are happening, and that's different. You can't replace that.
Right.
No matter how much business you chase, do we appreciate it? Absolutely. Are we grateful? 100%. Do we want all the business? Yes. But this is reality. And reality is that our relationship with you, whether we're doing business together or we're not doing business together, should be the same. So if I see you on Sunday and I don't see you again with a contract through my door, and the next time I run into you is at the grocery store, that relationship is no different.
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you the same questions,
Right. So we've talked about personal relationships. We've talked about technology and AI and all those things and all of that. But one thing I do want to touch base on is wire fraud.
Huge.
Because
rampant.
Because those are things that affect people's pocketbooks in a big, big way.
Oh, I was just listening to a story, and this kind of piggybacks off of the AI talk we're speaking on, where they're having, your voice. They take your voice and they're, calling your loved ones and saying, you need to send us, the one I heard recently was the daughter interrupted some kind of deal, and it was a cartel member. And, well, I'm either going to kill her or you're going to give me the money that I was supposed to make here. And this mom was so shook. It sounded like her daughter. And I think about that and I'm going, what if somebody did that? Like they try to intercept the emails.
Well, I mean, it's happened.
Yeah.
They've tested the theory. They were successful in doing
Taking
exactly
your voice and calling and going, well, and that is one thing I love about our company. We're very strict. We do, it is a notarized document in writing. We do not accept email, verbal, nothing. You fill that out. That is what it is. Or you come back to our office in person and fill out a new one.
Right.
Well, and I think that once you experience, like I've actually been on the other side of the desk for wire fraud, and we are trained on so many levels about how we provide those instructions. We've done everything that we can internally to make it as secure as possible. We can't control the information after it leaves us, right? So if an agent has email that's been hacked or a client has email that's been hacked through phishing or whatever it may be,
right.
Then all of a sudden we have a big problem, right? And I didn't realize how big it was until it personally affected a transaction that I was working. And a client called, it was on a Thursday, and they said, okay, well, we sent our wire on Monday. I just wanted to make sure that it was there. And I thought, okay, oh gosh. So I instantly am diving in, I'm looking, I'm researching, and I'm like, I need to know what instructions. Well, I used the instructions that you sent me. Ma'am, I did not. It is a disclaimer on everything that we have. We've got it plastered everywhere that we can post it. We talk about it. We say it. We go over, unfortunately, we can't send wiring instructions via email. You are required to go to the secure portal for the protection of your funds. If we don't have team joint effort, meaning our agents, our title company, our lenders, if the partnership is not there to be discussing such a big issue, this is where the gap happens. And then all of a sudden, someone intercepts an email that has my picture, that has my name, that has my signature line. And the only difference on that email is one little character in an email address that wouldn't show up unless you hovered over it.
You would easily overlook it.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so all of a sudden, now we have lost, $230,000, and it's been 4 days. And reporting to the feds and the investigation process that it requires to go through the banks and then pass that along. Once you've met that 24-hour window, the odds of recouping your funds become less and less. It's the worst call to have to make. It's the worst response to have to share with someone that their life savings and everything that they have is gone. And there's nothing that you personally can do to get it back. Nothing. So fortunately for this situation, we were able to recoup $98,000 of it, which is not in comparison to what was lost, but it was something versus nothing. It's huge, and it takes due diligence, and it takes, everyone being proactive about how they communicate about it and what to expect. And that double checkpoint, triple check it if you want to, because it is real and it happens in the blink of an eye, and they are getting smarter and more efficient at being a fraudster.
Right. I remember in 2015, it happened to a fellow agent of mine. And first off, I was like, kind of like you were talking about when you first got in the industry. I was like, what? And they did what? Yeah. And it was an investigation. It was a whole big deal because it was right at closing when buyer and seller are both looking at each other, and they're like, I sent the money. That was in 2015. And now we're talking about the changes in technology. And I cannot even imagine how off the charts it is, that the dangers. So on your perspective in title, what are some tips that you can give to realtors, to lenders, or even just buyers and sellers that are listening?
Communication is always key, right? And so when you have a true partnership with the title company that you're working with, or when you don't, be proactive. Pick up the phone and call your closer or call your rep or call someone in the office and say, I want to make sure for the safety of my client and their funds that I have the correct information. How do you provide that information to my clients? Will I be a part of that? Am I privy to that information? Is there a portal? Is there a secure password? And go over those steps and then convey that to your client. Reiterate, talk about what to expect. Talk about the fact that I am never going to email you wiring instructions under any circumstance ever, ever. Because if it's intercepted and one number is changed and your money's gone forever, and I like to go to sleep at night, and I want you guys to go to sleep at night and our clients to go to sleep at night in their new home, right? So call your title company, talk with them, build a partnership where you know what the routine is and you know that you've encouraged people to call and re-verify information. So you can reiterate those steps to them. They can call and reiterate to you, and then you can go over it. Okay, now that you've got it, just for good measure, take that extra step. Just call. It takes 2 seconds to make a phone call and verify information that could impact a lifetime. So,
Right.
Yeah, I say communication. Just as soon as you are meeting with a client and go under contract, call the title company if you have any questions. If you receive any emails or discounts, that's something they say. We'll give you a discount if you
there is
wire.
no such thing as a discount
No.
in the title industry.
There is not.
Period. We are regulated by the state of
Heavily
Texas.
regulated. So I think the communication piece is just educating our agents to know, hey, when you go under contract, you're going to have to go to the secure portal in order to get the wiring instructions, and then relaying that to the client and the lender and letting everybody know we do not email this. This is how you're going to receive that information. And so that they know if you do receive an email and it looks like me, give me a call. Just
Yeah.
double check.
Agents can be
2 seconds.
having that
Yeah.
conversation before
It's a
execution
disclosure.
occurs.
It's a disclosure that we should be talking about, just like
Sure.
every other
Right.
every other disclosure.
Every other
Yeah.
disclosure,
Yes.
right? Every document that we sign for legality purposes has a true purpose. It's there for a reason. There's been a lawsuit that has occurred at some point in time that helped to create that document. That's the reason it's there. And so when you're disclosing that, actually do the work. Go over the document. It's like we tell people, we're not attorneys. Legally, we cannot interpret, but we can give you as much information as we possibly can without overstepping those bounds. And we want you to be educated. So we're going to encourage you to go and research and learn more and to take those steps also. We'll communicate and help facilitate, but you have to be proactive in protecting your funds, just like we have to be proactive in ensuring that you're getting accurate information.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
All right. So I would like to do a rapid fire session with both of you.
Oh, gosh.
All right.
Okay.
So
Under pressure.
I know.
we could do it just like I'll ask you and then you answer too.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
Okay.
All right. What is your go-to drink?
Margarita.
Oh, water?
What's
So
your
exciting.
What's your favorite sport?
Football.
Baseball.
If you could go anywhere today, where would you go?
Italy.
Montana.
Okay. If you could have a walkout song, what would it be? Da-na-na-na.
I know.
Oh, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many that come to my mind. I'm like,
Yeah, I can't even think.
oh, snap.
I'm like bad to the bone.
That would be your walkout
Yeah.
song.
It's totally appropriate, right?
Okay. Top 3.
Okay. I don't know.
gave her-
Probably a
that's too
Beyonce
big.
song, right? I mean, Diva.
Anything that is sassy is going to fit.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, how about Beyonce Diva?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Diva
I'm
is
like,
a
get it,
female
girl.
version of a
Hustler.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
I wasn't as rapid, so
Wrap it off.
Yeah.
That was super
too many
fun.
choices.
Okay. Well, would you rather have coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Pepsi or Dr. Pepper?
Dr. Pepper.
Neither.
What would be your favorite food? What's like style of food?
Italian.
Oh, yeah. 100% Italian.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Oh, yeah.
that was fun.
I married an
Yeah.
Italian, so I say that growing up, I was like, I love Italian food. I love Italy. I was Italian in another life. I'm going to marry an Italian. Trim Brocato. He's Sicilian, so
I love it.
shout out.
So have you been to Italy?
We have not.
But you're gonna.
His parents went for their 35th wedding anniversary. They did a tour of Italy. It is a bucket list. So, yeah, one of these days we're going to make it over there.
I love that so
I
much.
do too. I'm like, I like the bucket list. I try to check it off, traveling.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Have the experience.
Absolutely.
Might take a lifetime to get there, but we'll do it.
Yeah. I was clearing out a thing that I had at my house that had like a journal that I had done, and I had done like 100 things like I think it was like 2017.
I saw you post something and I was super inspired and I wanted to pick up the phone to call you. I just wanted to tell you that, and sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
But I was like, I could so feel your experience and relate to that space of you were stepping out of your comfort zone and you bit the bullet and did something that you had not
What
been
was it?
doing. It was pertaining to travel, I think.
Oh, flying.
Yeah, I'm with you. So, but I was like, okay, yeah, that's when right? You're conquering those things that you are terrified, just petrified of, or you've avoided for so long.
That is so true. And I really don't know why. My husband was in the military, so we were at Fort Hood, and that was like the last time I flew was in 2005,
Yeah.
like on a spring break trip. I came down to Fort Hood. And I was on a plane with a bunch of grunts that were just, Iraq was going on, the war in Iraq. So, I mean, they were all just like, and I was like in the middle, and there was no particular reason why I was scared, but I
Right.
didn't fly since then. And so my daughter, she's in competitive sports. And so we're traveling all over the United States. And so I had to do it on behalf of her. Like I had to be that like warrior. And then now I'm just like, I could fly anywhere.
Yeah. It's like that empowerment. And it's silly because it seems like such a small thing, but really it's not.
Yeah.
And then when you realize, what you're showing someone else and that you have the strength to do it, and it's the mind over matter, and you face the fear. Like there's so much more to it. And I was like, oh man, that post just stood out to me.
Yes,
I thought,
queen.
oh, I love it. Yes, I love it.
So as we wrap things up, I appreciate your gratitude for that. That was awesome. Yeah. And I love that we can bounce off each other all the time, and I see your successes on social media, and I know you're probably watching us too.
Absolutely.
And so where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram. I am Magnolia Title Lady, or Ashley Brocato on Facebook or LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Yeah, I was going to say LinkedIn, Facebook. You can find me behind the desk. That's where I spend most of my time. Yeah, absolutely.
I do try to get her out every now and then, like today.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you guys have any final thoughts or anything that you want to share before we sign off today?
No, I just appreciate the time. I've really
Yes.
enjoyed it. This was a step out of my box, right? So I think that, and it was really fun. I actually really enjoyed it.
Good.
I know.
So
I'm ready for my next podcast.
I know. Well, before you ladies go, we have a gift from Texas Trio Team for
thank
both of
you.
you, just for your time.
You're so
you're busy
sweet.
ladies, and
Thank
we're
you.
just so thankful for our business relationship. It means so much.
Yes,
Yes.
likewise.
Yes,
Yeah,
we definitely feel the same.
I'm like,
Awesome.
yes, thank y'all so much.
Well, so you can always find us at Texas Trio Team. We hope that you are just having a great afternoon and enjoy today's show. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us, but go out and keep living your best life.